Okay, happy Friday, everyone. We have a lower body strength and conditioning session that we are going to do today. Equipment, we are going to need specifically a towel and or some sliders, as we are going to use it in our warm-up and for some of the work. Dumbbells, loop bands will come into play as well, of course, our mat, and we will be doing that conditioning work at the end, which will be having some higher impact stuff, so we'll go ahead and put on our shoes for that additional support, either now or later on when we get there. Okay, let's get you started with this warm-up. No equipment, just your body. We're going to come to the end of the mat, hip width apart in the feet. Soft knees. We'll bring our hands down to the floor while keeping our legs straight. Walking all the way down into a plank. When we get down here, we're going to step in one and put that back, and then step in the other, and then put it back, and then walk ourselves back up to the top, lifting those hips up. When we get to the top here, we'll reach the arms up, over to one side, over to the other side, and then we'll go back down and do that 2 more times total. So down to the bottom, stepping in as close as we can towards that hand. But again, this should all be comfortable. We're not forcing anything. This time and the day, hour in our lives. And then again, side bend, and we'll go through 1 more of those to make it 3 total. There we go. So we'll get going through those ones, 3 of them. That last one, we'll get those side bends on both sides, and then do not go anywhere because we are going to go through 3 more reps of these with the walkout and the step in, but this time we shall add that opening rotation in. So we'll step in, rotate, and open up towards the knee, trying to look at the ceiling above ourselves. We'll close, switch sides, and then do that on the other side. And then close, and then now we'll walk back up, and we're not reaching the arms up. We're just going to reach this top position and then go back down. 2 more rounds of that whole thing total. So we get down to the bottom, stepping in. This one feels nice, especially after all the stuff we've done this week. We've been joining in, so we'll go both sides, and then we'll walk right back up, and keeping those hips lifted, standing, and doing it again. So yes, we are loosening everything up. Our hips are back, but we're also slightly getting that heart rate up, which we can feel. So we'll get through that last one. And I'm going to pause this here. Perfect. Okay, so as we come to an end on that one, we're going to stand up. Doesn't matter where you stand. We're standing hip width apart of the feet. Same soft knees as before. We're going to hinge the hips back, so push them back behind us. As we do that, we'll reach both of our arms up and over our head. Getting a nice stretch through the back of the legs, reaching those arms up, and then we'll stand, pull the hips forward, bring those arms in. That's 1. We're doing 10 of these total. So we're going for that nice opening stretch in the back of the legs, pushing the hips back, ending up in this overhead position, and then pulling the hips forward, bringing those arms into the chest. We'll do 10 of those total. Again, getting that stretch in. Those hamstrings, loosening them up, we should feel a little looser as we go through our reps, in theory. That's what it's all about. And you may also feel some work happening in the glutes in the back of your hips as we pull those hips forward. So we'll go through 10 of those total. 10 reps with the reach, with the hips, and then we are going back down onto the floor to stay. We're not walking up and down anymore. So we're going to get down into a plank position. Hands and the toes, high plank. What we're going to do here is lift the hips straight up out of that plank. So we're getting that stretch in the back of the legs. We're going to drop one heel and bend the opposite knee. So I'm walking out calf, the hamstring. I'll do 3 on each side to make it 6 total. So I'll take my time with these. Take it nice and slow, 3 of them, and then we'll bring those hips back down into that plank. Once we reach this strong plank position, we'll lift them back up and do it again. 1, 2, 3, 6 total. 4. Okay, keeping the hips up, getting a little blood flow to the head, and then back down into the plank. So we'll go through 1 more of those, again, lifting those hips straight up, not pulling them back, trying to lift them straight to the ceiling. 6 of those total, back down into the plank. And then you can go ahead and stand up. That one's going to warm you up if you weren't already. So we'll get through those ones, 3 of them. There we are. And then we're going to stand up and get some balancing stuff going on. So as you come to an end on that one, you can come back up, join me, and stand on one leg. So I'm going to start on my left side. You want to stand up nice and tall, soft knee in that standing leg. Going through the hip hinge, same one we did with the 2 feet on the ground, but this is a single leg. Same reach overhead. So we're going to reach overhead and then pull the hips forward, arms come in. So now we'll go through 5 reps only on each side, trying to wake up, warm up the glutes, which we're going to feel a lot on this one. So we'll reach, trying to get ourselves straight, as straight as we can, and then balance, bringing that foot forward so that we're not touching it down on the floor. 5, and then we'll switch, and we're going to do 5 on this side. Okay, which might be a little easier, a little harder than the other. We'll go 5 and 5 of those ones. Deadlifts, very nice. Good morning, glutes. We're starting to feel that going on back there. We get a lot of that going on today. So we'll get 5 on each side, and then we are going to move ourselves close to a wall, back of a couch, back of a chair, something to hold on to, something stable. So I'm going to use this wall right here, and we're going to be standing on the opposite leg of that wall, that chair, whatever that we have in contact with our hand. Soft knee. We're going to hinge the hips back into that same deadlift, but at the bottom here, we're going to open and rotate our hips towards the wall, close back down to the floor, and then drive our hips forward. So we're not worrying about balance in this one, hence that hand on the wall. We're trying to go back, making this 2 different movements. The deadlift, the opening, which we're going to feel in that standing inner thigh, the close, and then the driving forward, which is going to get, again, that glute action going on. So same 5 reps over here, and then we'll switch and switch sides, and we'll do 5 reps over here. So turning that bottom foot towards the wall, or opening up the hip, same, just a different thing to think about, okay? But the same thing happens there. So we'll go through that on both sides. Opening, very nice. This one can be a little bit funky. We'll try our best to separate the deadlift and that opening situation, okay? So we're not making it into one movement, a couple different things going on. Okay, so 5 and 5, and then we are going to get you started on the first little circuit that we're going to do, which is going to involve our slider, our towel, our fuzzy sock, whatever that you're using on the floor to slide around. And for those of you who do not have this, you know I got you. You don't necessarily need something sliding or a floor that slides because you might not have it, and that's okay. But if you do, we are going to grab it and create some space. I'm just going to pull my mat up and over a bit so that we have some room to slide around on the floor. We're going to be working off of a timer. We have 2 different movements that are going to be using this slider, similar but different. First one is going to be our extension. So we want to stand tall, have that towel or slider underneath one foot. Again, if you don't have this, that's completely fine. You're going to follow along doing the same thing, just without sliding your foot. Soft knee in the standing leg. We're going to hinge the hips back so we feel tight in the standing leg. And then we'll extend that leg out on a 45. Arms are in front of us. We're going to spend 30 seconds, and I'm going to start that timer right now. Okay, so let's start this first side. 30 seconds on this side. All we're doing is extending the leg and bringing it in, trying to get all the work on the standing glute, not letting anything happen in our body. It's nice and still, just that extension, and then bringing it in. And if you don't have that slider, we're just going to tap and tap our foot out there. 30 seconds. So we'll keep going through. We have 5 more seconds left on this side, and then we're going to switch right away onto the other side. No transition time, and switch. So right away, as quickly as we can, we'll switch that towel, and we will try to go through our second set of this 45-degree extension. So same rules apply. Stillness in the body. We want to draw our belly button into the spine. Try to keep everything as still as possible, except, of course, that moving leg, which should have no weight in it. So we don't want to be following that foot. We want to keep it all right here. Okay, we'll be switching and doing a second set in 3, 2, 1, and switch. So we'll go back to our first side. This is going to be our second and last set of this one, this extension. So again, we'll try to lock it in turn to the side. You can see my hips are being drawn back behind me. That's gonna, again, keep and create that tension in the back of the hips, which is what this one is all about. If we're just standing up and doing this, we're not gonna feel this nearly as much as if we're hinged back. Okay, switching sides in 3, 2, 1, and switch. So we'll go back to our second side for the last set. Woo, and you should be starting to feel this going on in the hips. Again, that standing leg is our working leg. So we'll work through this one. 15 more seconds left. And then we will stand up for a little bit before we go into the second one. Try and get through about 5 more of these, nice, slow, controlled, and keeping the weight in the front. 3, 2, 1, and time. Very nice. Okay, so the second one, similar but different. We're going to be drawing circles with our foot, rather than extending the foot back. So you can switch back to the first side, same time on the clock, same 2 rounds total. We're going to be drawing the circle out to the side, backward and around to create this circle. 30 seconds over here like this, and then we're going to switch directions for that second 30 seconds, okay? And then we'll switch sides, and that will conclude this activation portion of this warm-up, okay? So get yourself ready, set, hinging the hips, 3, 2, and let's go. Timer has started, so have you. So again, if you do not have our towel, we're just going to try to circle that foot, essentially balancing on this one side, on this one leg. All right, if you're using a slider, you don't want to put any weight in that foot. So if there's any of this going on, you're missing out on that work that you would get if you're not doing that, okay, which is why we don't want to. So we're going in that one direction, and we'll be switching in 3, 2, 1. So same side, but now we're going to circle it forward and around, okay, and we're really starting to feel it going on over here, which is what this one is all about. So we'll try to keep those hips back and belly button in, arms in front of us. Oh yeah, 10 seconds left right here. Okay, remember what direction you're going in. We'll be switching sides as well as switching directions of our circle in 3, 2, 1, and switch. So hustling right away over to that other side, starting right away. As we know, there's no time to rest on this clock yet. So we'll go right into this one. 30 seconds in that one direction. There you go. Okay, so breathing through this one, taking our time. It doesn't matter how many circles we get, but we do want to feel that work in the back of that standing hip, that standing leg. And switch directions. So again, going the other way now. Woo! This is the last bit to this one because we are probably feeling this a lot. We're almost there. We'll just try to keep working through this. Just under 15 seconds left. You got this. Okay, last few. 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and time. Okay, nice work. All right, so we can put that towel aside, grab ourselves some water. Woo! Shake it out. And we're probably feeling a lot in the hips and the sides and backs of the hips, and that's what the goal was on that one. So yay. All right, so we're going to move on to our first 2 movements. We're doing them in a superset, back to back together. First one's going to be a single leg deadlift, which we had some practice with in the warm-up, but we're going to weight it. So I want you to grab onto your dumbbells and or onto your bands if you don't have dumbbells. Okay, so we'll keep those close. We're going to hold 1 dumbbell in each hand and shifting the weight onto one leg, soft knee, hinging the hips back until we feel that tension in the back of the leg, and then we'll pull the hips forward, driving our knee up to 90 degrees. That's 1. We're doing 15 of these on each side to start. So you can start your first set, 15 reps total over here. Hips back, hips forward, driving the knee all the way up to get that nice squeeze on that standing leg. 15 of them. Okay, so let's start this first set. And if you're using bands, we'll have that band looped around opposite foot like this. Okay, 15. And keep in mind, you can always add more than 1 band to increase the resistance that you have. We'll still try to not touch the floor. Our knee won't come as far forward as we don't have as much space as the band is in the way. but we will make sure that we're not touching that foot down between each rep. Okay. Ooh, so if you weren't feeling it back there, which you probably were, you definitely will be after this first movement. So we'll do this on both sides. 15 over here, and then we will switch and do 15 on the other side. And then we are going to pair this one with another movement, which we will talk about in about 15 seconds. I'll let you guys finish that up. This one does take a little bit to get through, as it is high reps and single leg. Then do both of them. So we'll try to keep it as even as possible as we go through this first set. We will be completing 3 rounds. Okay, so you have this one. You'll have to do this 2 more times after this, with the second one that we have going on too, which is going to be our Sumo Deadlifts. So as you come to an end on those single leg deadlifts, we're going to set ourselves up in this wider than squat, wider than hip width stance with the toes angled out to the sides, grabbing onto dumbbells. If you have a heavier set of them, you can go ahead and grab them, holding them in front of us with the palms facing each other. We want to set the shoulder blades back, so we're pulling the shoulders together, and then we'll hinge the hips back, pushing them behind us. As soon as the weights are above our knees, we'll bend the knees and push them out to the sides, and then we'll pull ourselves back up and out of this one. 15 is the number to be on this one as well. So making sure that we have that upright position in the shin, our knees aren't driving forward, but rather our hips are being pushed back behind us. So we'll take our sweet time. We know that the slower we do this one, especially that lowering phase, the harder, the more challenging that weight you're using is going to feel. Because most of us are kind of stuck with 1 or 2 light-ish sets of dumbbells. And so in order to get the most out of this, we will slow her down a little, especially on the way down. So 15 on that one, and then we're doing it again. So we'll try to limit our rest. There's no prescribed rest. We are trying to go back to back between these two. As you finish up those deadlifts, you need to grab a quick sip of water, put your weights down for a second because you've just been holding them that whole time. That's okay. But we'll try to go right into that second set, back into our first one, our single leg deadlifts. Okay, 15 over here, 15 over there, and then we have 15 of those sumo deads to go with this one. So we have 2 more rounds, 3 sets total. Okay, so finish those deadlifts. Woohoo! Feeling the back of the legs, some work in the hamstrings. Okay, and then we'll start going on our second set. Now, if you are without dumbbells, if you don't have dumbbells for that deadlift, what I would like you to do instead of working with just like a bodyweight deadlift, we're going to take this band and put it around your knees, and we are going to sub you in for a sumo stance squat. So you're going to be dropping the hips a little bit lower, but because we don't have that resistance, that weight in our hands from the dumbbells, because if you're listening, you probably don't have them, then this is going to give you a bit more benefit as we're going to get a little lower and require more use of the legs than if we're to keep the hips lifted up. Okay, the other option is holding our band in front of us like this. But again, if you find that that is a little bit easy, you can try banding the knees and doing our sumo squats instead. Okay, so let's get through our second set. Back in first one, single leg deadlifts. All right. So we'll go through 15 and 15 again, trying to bring that knee up to the top, feeling that work happening on our standing leg, keeping those weights nice and close to our body, not allowing them to stray away. Okay. And 15, let's do it. There we are. All right, so we'll get through the second set. And taking our time with these reps. Okay, trying to keep it even on both legs, especially on the deadlifts, the single leg deadlifts. You are most likely going to feel that one side might be a little bit more capable, or stronger than the other. It's completely normal, but that's how you're feeling. Then we will start our next set, because it's going to be your last one, on your less strong side. Okay, on the one that feels a lot more challenging. For most of us, it's our left side, but it might not be. Okay, it might be your right side. It doesn't matter if you're right-handed, left-handed. It just depends on you and how you're feeling. So assess your situation in a set. We'll get going on those deadlifts once we're finished. And then we have one more round of this stuff. So as we go through the second round of deadlifts, and we'll make sure that we're kind of separating this into two things. First thing is the hips back. We want to drive the hips back. Legs are straight, but they're not locked out in that straight position. And then as soon as the weights are below or above our knees, we bend the knees into this deadlifting spot here. But we want to make sure that our hips are, hello Dusty, higher than our knees, rather than sinking down like this, as this is a squat. We want to stay lifted in that deadlift position. So we'll try to get that going on here in our second set. And of course, in our last one. That's what's happening next. For the final round. Okay. So we'll get through this one. Very nice. Okay, so again, as we come to an end on the deadlifts, if you want to grab just a quick sip of water, keep in mind there's no time on the clock, so we'll try to hustle. But you're going to be feeling these a lot. You probably are, I have to say that. So if you need to take a couple of deep breaths before you go into set number 3, that's okay. All right, so we'll finish up strong here with our last set. We have about 5 minutes, which is plenty of time. Okay, until we should be starting our next part. So feel free to take this one a little slower. Again, you're going to get the most benefit from that slower tempo when we're lowering down. So in our deadlifts, as we come down to the bottom, we can still keep the weight up nice in 2 seconds, normal. But the way down, we can take 3 to 4 to maybe 5 seconds to reach the bottom, especially if you don't have very heavy weights or bands on you. But most of us, we probably don't need to slow down because we are probably feeling this a lot with this high rep range that we're doing and this combo of these 2 movements. All right, so we'll finish strong here within the next 3 minutes. And we'll move on to the next part. All right, deadlifting it out. Tapping into, again, that balance. Okay. There we go. Take off time. Keep it even. Usually when we do our first side, we're ambitious because we're starting our set and all that, and then we get to the second side, and you might feel the need to sort of rush it or skip through a few of the reps. So because we're only doing 3 sets, it's also more important that you keep it even and that you make it challenging. Okay, we don't want to be thinking that we could get more than 15. So let's try our best on this last set, especially on these deadlifts, sumo ones, to really make this hard for ourselves. Okay, thinking about tension. We want tension in the glutes and the back of the legs and the hamstrings. So as we go through the set, we're pushing our hips back to create that tension back there. And then when we get to the bottom, we squeeze our butt. And that is what's lifting us up to the top. So we don't just stand and squeeze. We want to think about that squeezing contraction happening at the bottom, and that pulls us up to the top. And very often, we need a reminder. I need a reminder. I need to remind myself when I'm doing this, when I'm doing these exercises, that's what's happening there. Okay, we want to think about pushing the knees out. And all those things together, hopefully, will make you feel this set a little bit more. Okay. We'll give you just under 2 minutes, about 1.5 minutes to finish up this last set of deadlifts. As you are coming to an end, you're done a little early, you can just grab some water and rest finally. Take the next minute to yourself to breathe. H2O. Think about your glutes, they're feeling. Okay, and then the next part, perfect. All right. Very nice, very nice. Okay, so as we come to an end on there, then we will rest a little bit once we're done. We are going to move on to the next superset of 2 leg exercises, and one of them is going to be a slider exercise. So we want to grab onto this towel and make sure that we have some space. We'll be going through a slider reverse lunge. So I'm going to actually give myself a little bit more space. Bring this mat up. There we go. So that I have room to slide back into our reverse lunges. Okay, so again, if you don't have the slider, do not worry about it. You're going to follow along doing our reverse lunges. We're going to talk about how to make them very similar to how they feel when we're using that slider. And we are also going to need our dumbbells close, as we might want to add some weight to this. So we'll be working with these slider reverse lunges to start. 10 reps on each side. Now for some of us, body weight is going to be adequate. We're going to be good to go with body weight, because this one we're trying to pull ourselves up and out of that lunge. We have no help from that back leg, okay, which is exactly what you're going to think about if you don't have the slider, is stepping back, and same thing, we're trying to pull ourselves back up to the top here. So most of us, we can handle this with some weights. I've done this one before, but at any point, if you feel like that weight's too much and you're not pulling anymore, then you can just either put one down or work with body weight. So 10 reps on each side. We'll start our first set, and we're trying to get down into this lunge. Both knees are at 90 degrees, and then we pull up to the top. As we go down into that lunge, we're pushing our hips back to maintain a more upright position in our shin, rather than having the knee drive forward. So we want the hips to go back, and 10 over here, woo, feeling that one. And then we'll switch, okay? And then we'll do 10 over on this side over here. There we go. Let's do it. Okay, that's our first one. All right, so again, same rules apply. If you're not using the slider, you can hold some weight in your hands. We want to make sure that we are pulling ourselves up and out of that lunge. Let's do it. 10 and 10. Okay. So this one, it's a superset. We're going to pair this with another lower body exercise. Double leg exercise though, because that was more in a lot of that single leg focus. We're going into a goblet squat. So I'm going to be picking up both of my dumbbells, loading them up into our front loaded or goblet holding position. Feet are in our squat stance. So hip width apart with that slight angle out the toes. We're going to sit down to the bottom and hold for 1, 2, and then push back up to the top, doing that 10 reps total. So holding 1, 2, and then standing up to the top. Weights are in front of us, but they're not resting on our chest. Keep in mind, you don't have to use 2 dumbbells. If you have heavier ones, or the ones you have are heavy enough, you can hold one like this, or like this, okay? But again, you don't want to be resting it on the shoulders, the collarbones, and making sure that we pause regardless of what we're using. So again, if you're not using weights, you don't have dumbbells, we're going to sit down and hold 1, 2, feel free to make that even 4 seconds, okay, if you don't have those weights, in order to, again, make that 10 feel challenging. Like we do not want to do 11 or 12. As we finish this one, we are going to take some rest, okay? We have that 30 to 45 second rest belt. How nice. So don't go right into your second set, and that is so that we can be a little bit rested, recovered for that second set, so we have a stronger round, okay? So take some deep breaths, all right? And if you need a reminder to take rest, we should be feeling like we need rest at this point. And if you're not, we'll try to make this next set more challenging so that we feel like we need it at the end. Same set number here, we're doing 3 rounds total. So we just did 1. Okay, we're going to go into 2 more of these. All right, again, once that 30, 45 seconds is up, we will go into our second set, back to our slider reverse lunges. So working with 10 reps total on each leg. Okay, pulling ourselves up to the top. Going through the second round. These ones are way harder than they look with the sliders. And it's a really great way to get us stronger and better at these lunges without our body kind of low-key cheating and pushing us up out of the lunge, which tends to happen when there's not something slippery underneath our foot. So it's good practice. Okay. So we'll go through both legs. Right into our second set of our goblet squats with our 2-second pause at the bottom. Oh yeah, for the legs. All right, let's get it. All right, second round. So same rules apply. If you don't have dumbbells, if you do have bands, you can band up those knees and pause for our 2 seconds. Okay, the band wants the knees to come in, so we have to work harder in the hips and the outsides of the hips and legs to keep those knees apart. Options. Again, if you don't have dumbbells, or if you want to make the set a bit more challenging, okay? If your weights are kind of light, you want a bit more glute focus. You're probably already feeling a lot back there, but the option is there. So we'll get through the second set, and then we'll rest, okay? So we'll get these squats in, and if you got to the end of that first set of your squats, and you finished, and you felt a little antsy, like you were ready to go into your next set of lunges, let's slow this down a bit, okay? Take that to a 3 or 4 second pause at the bottom, rather than just the 2 seconds, okay? Most of us probably don't need to do that, but some of us might need to, okay? And that's gonna, again, get you more out of that set so that you earn this rest that you get, 30 to 45. All right, so we'll get through this. And then we have one more round. This part. We'll move on to the next part. All right. Place it back into our first one. Make sure we get some deep breaths in, deep belly breaths, try to calm ourselves down. All right, and get going on our second, or last set, I shall say, our second superset. Our lunges, 10 and 10. There we go. There we go. The legs. Okay, we have one more part to this lower body strength, which actually has a little bit of sneaky heart rate elevation work in it, which you'll see when we get there. And then we have a nice sweaty conditioning circuit. The 10-minute one today, so it's short and spicy. I don't want to say sweet. And then we're done. We are out of here. We'll stretch, of course. We are free to go on this Friday. So let's start our last round. If you have not already, let's get through it. Okay, back to this first one, our lunges, 10 and 10. And then we'll finish up with our 10 paused goblet squats. Okay, our front-loaded squats. Let's get it. Okay. All right, so we'll finish up strong. We'll take that rest time as we finish up those squats. Grab some water. Think about how good we feel. And then we are going to put our mat back down. We moved it out of the way because the next 2 movements, we are going to be on this mat. We don't need any equipment. They are body weight movements, body weight leg exercises, which we know are usually the hardest kind. So grab yourself some water, and I'll give you about 1 more minute to finish this up before we move on and start our final part, which I am going to start talking about. So we are going into a variation of burpee. Now, this burpee that we're doing is not about getting our heart rate up, although that is part of it. You're going to feel your heart rate getting up, but we're not meant to do these as fast as we can. We're thinking about the leg and a lunge stepping us out of this burpee. So I'm going to demo this to you. Feel free to practice with me or watch first and then practice after. That's okay. Hip width apart of the feet, hands down on the floor. We're going to step out into this plank, and then I'm going to step in with my right leg and try to step all the way up to the top here. This leg's now going to go all the way back out into the plank. Other one follows. Now that leg's going to step in, and I'm going to try to bring myself all the way up to the top. Okay, so hopefully I made that look easy. This one is much more challenging than it looks. So I want you to come here and practice this one with me. Just go through a couple reps on each side to get a feel for it. Again, we are going down with one leg, into the plank, alternating. So now right leg is going to stand all the way up. You might be a little wobbly. You might have to touch the floor a little bit on the first couple. But the goal eventually is to have a fluid motion, bringing us all the way up to the top. We're doing 8 total, 4 on each side, okay? So you can start your first set right now. If you want to count those practice ones or just start counting up to 8, it's totally up to you. Not 8 on each side. So 8 total, that's 4 of those step ups on each leg, okay? So we'll go down, and we come up, drive up the knee. We got the balance edition here, yes. And we go down, other leg drives up the knee. So I'll let you go through that one there. Again, this is the one that's going to sort of get your heart rate going up here, because I guess in theory is technically kind of a burpee, but it's not the craziest burpee we've ever done. Again, it's much more about the leg strength and getting ourselves out of that plank position in that lunge. Okay, so let's go through those ones. 8 of them. And then the next one, the last one I should say, of the superset is on the floor. All right. So once you're finished your lunging burpees, we're going to lay down on our back into a hip bridging position. So we're in our position here. We want to squish our back down into the floor. Hands can go down on the floor beside the hips, and we're going to drive the hips up into that bridge, top part of the bridge. And then I'm going to lift up onto my heels. So the entire time I want to be on my heel rather than on my flat foot. Then what we're going to do is try to keep the hips stable, not rocking. We're going to walk the feet out one at a time, right, left, as far as we are comfortable / uncomfortable with. We don't have to go all the way out. We have to keep the hips up, and then we walk back in all the way to that bridge. That's 1. We're going to do that 8 times. So we walk out. Keep in mind, the straighter your legs, the harder it's going to be. And then we walk in, and we want to make sure that the hips never fall. So the whole entire time we're fighting gravity, trying to bring our hips up into this bridge. You might only take maybe 2 steps out, come back in, okay, because this one is, again, harder than it looks. Or you might go all the way out, straight legs, and come in. It's completely up to you, okay? But we're doing 8. In and out is 1. 8 total. All right. Hamstrings. So we're going to feel a lot of stuff happening in the back of the legs. Again, if you feel like it's not good, it's that not good pain, like it's too much work happening on the hamstrings, don't walk out so far. Okay, just focus on keeping the hips up and work with a comfortable / a little bit uncomfortable range of motion that allows you to feel safe over everything else. Okay, because this one, we've done lots of versions of the hamstring curls and such, but this hamstring walkout specifically, some of us might just have to be a bit more cautious with than others. So please do that for yourself. And then, you guessed it, we're doing it again. We have 4 sets of this, okay, no rest. Once we're finished, we're gonna stand up, just so that we can get back down into that planking burpee lunge, okay? So we'll go right into our second set, okay? Again, we're getting the heart rate up a little bit here, starting to get that cardio going, prepping ourselves for the last part. 8 total, 4 on each side. Get it. Now, this one was super challenging for me at first. Very wobbly, borderline, could not do it. And it all came down to me being quite tight in my hips. So something that helps, if those of you who are struggling watching this and who are really having a hard time with this one, what you can do is think about stepping your foot right in front of that hand here and trying to, or behind the hand rather, trying to step out of it like that, rather than stepping wide and around the hand. So if I step out like this, it's going to be more challenging for me to come up and out of that lunge, whereas if I step in a little bit closer like this, I'll probably have an easier time being able to do this, more manageable time, okay? So let's get through this next round. We can apply that to our final two if we need them. Okay. The brother's dog is going buck wild down there. Okay, so we'll get through these ones, 8 of them, and then we'll get going on to our next set of these hamstring bridge walkouts. Okay, so back into the floor, hips are on the floor, and we drive up to the very top, onto the heels, hands are on the floor, and we walk ourselves out, okay, and then we walk ourselves in. We're not worried about how many steps we take or, again, how far we are, but we know that the further out we go, the more challenging it is, okay? And if we take more steps, it's going to take us a little bit longer, which is also going to make this a bit harder for ourselves. Okay? Let's do this 8 times in and out. There we go. Okay, so we'll finish up that set with 2 more to go. Keeping in mind our last final part we're going to do is a 10-minute conditioning circuit. So we have lots of time to get through this part. In fact, I will give you about 4 more minutes to finish up your next 2 sets. So again, we will try our best to limit our rest. The only rest you have is the time it takes you to get down on the floor and up off the floor between these 2 movements. Okay, but we will take our sweet time with them. We're not trying to rush through this. And the goal of this burpee, quote unquote, is to not do it as fast as we can, which is usually the goal when we're trying to do our burpees and the up and the down stuff. This one's much more about control. So I prefer that you go slower, you take more time to do it, over you rushing through it and again losing your balance or not being able to step out of it, whatever it is. We'll take our time with it. Okay, so we have 1 more set left after this one. Hamstring walk outs. And they are way harder than they look. Yep. All right. Perfect. Okay, so we'll finish up strong on this last part. I wasn't kidding when I said there was a little sneaky cardio, heart rate elevation. You're starting to feel that now. Again, we'll pace ourselves here. Try to push ourselves to stay consistent through all of our reps. There you go. Okay, finishing up with our final set down on the floor. We have about 2 minutes that we will have fully to do these 2 exercises, okay? So we'll finish up the set, and we'll get started on our last one if we have not already. And then, if you are done a little early, you can just grab some water and rest it out. Get yourself ready, get your shoes on, get yourself ready for our last part. A bit of jumping around, that endorphin release, what we're here for. The part we don't want to do on our own. Maybe this is all of it, that's okay. Okay, so we'll finish up this last set. As we are coming to the end, and we'll grab some water, and we are going to clear out all of our stuff. Okay, so once you're finished, you can put it all aside, away. The only thing you need is your body. Again, some supportive footwear if you are going to be joining me on the high impact jumping stuff, as well as your mat. That's the stuff for this last part, okay? All right, so we'll take again about 1 more minute here. Move this stuff away, so have some space. And we'll take some deep breaths. Try to calm ourselves down. Okay, grab some water. Getting ready for this final part. Okay. Timer is set. Awesome. All right. So we'll finish strong here. Hamstring walkouts. We should be doing that a lot in the back of the legs. Okay. Good news is we are done back there. Make a little bit of leg work, sneaky leg work in this next part, but this next last part we're doing is all about getting your heart rate for as many rounds as possible. I already teased you on this. We have a 10-minute time cap for this last final part here. So I'm going to give you 3 exercises with a prescribed amount of reps. So yes, you have to count for each of them. And then you are going to complete as many sets as you can in 10 minutes. We're looking for anywhere between 3 to 5, maybe even 6 sets total of this, depending on how fast you do it, as well as how much rest you take. So I'm going to talk about all 3 of them before I press start on this timer. Feel free to, again, practice them and follow along with me here so you can get a feel for them before we start doing them all out as fast as we can, okay? This first one we're going to do 6 times on each side. Coming to one side of the mat, knee is up. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Side lunge. That's 1. We're doing that 6 times. Little balance. 1, 2, 3, 4. Side lunge. That's 2. 3. Okay, we're doing 6 of those on this side, and then we'll switch. And then we'll do 6 on this side. Okay, so that is going to be our very first one that we're going through. Second one is our lateral bounds. So lateral bounds, we're going to count there and back as 1. Going 1, 2, okay, 3. We're doing 8 of those total. So I'll remind you of these numbers, of course, but remember for most, if not all of these, there and back equals 1 rep. That's the second one. Last one, we're going down into a plank position where we're going to jump our feet 1, 2, 3, 4, doing 10 total of these plank jacks. Once we're done, we're doing it again as many times as we can in 10 minutes. Okay, so starting with that first one, high into side lunge, starting in 3, 2, 1, let's go. Okay, it's a time cap, so we have no starting beep or no beeping at all. Okay, no rest. You create your own rest. So let's start with this first one. 4 high knees into our side lunge. If you don't jump, we're going to march and then side lunge. Not worrying about going too deep in that side lunge, but we want to absorb that feeling in the back of the hips and push ourselves back up to the top. Woo, so we can go right into our next rep. Okay, 6 over here, 6 over there. Yeah. And then we have our lateral bounds up next. Okay, so we're trying our best to go right between these with no rest. No time. If we have to take any rest, it's going to be at the very end, after we're finished our plank jacks. That's the time we'll take some deep breaths, try to calm down a little bit, grab water, but we will try to limit that to less than 1 minute. Okay, and that's going to allow you to stay efficient and get your minimum 3 rounds in. Okay, so we'll get these high knee side lunges done on both sides, 6 and 6. And then we'll go right into our lateral bounds. Okay, so again, if you don't jump, we're going to just step, tap that foot, again, counting only on one side. Okay, so 3, 4, all right. Doing 8 of those total. We got it. Okay, working through this one. Hair always falls out when you start jumping around. All right, so we'll work through 8 of those. And then we will get right down into that plank position, that high plank, hands and the toes. And we'll work with our plank jacks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 total. They're short. They're not easy. We want to keep that core tight. Stop our hips from lifting up to the ceiling. Okay, 10 of them. And then we'll stand up and try to go into our second set. Okay, so again, if you're feeling really gassed, like you need a second, and take that time, do a little lap around your mat. Okay, deep breaths, maybe a quick sip of water, and then we'll get going right into that next set. Okay, back to our first one. High knees, 2 side lunges, 6 and 6. So like I said, there's a range on how many rounds you're going to get. Minimum, I want all of us to get at least 3 in. Okay, but again, some of us are going to be getting maybe upwards to even 5 or 6 sets. If you don't take rest at the end, and if you do these really fast, then of course you're going to get more rounds in. But some of us, we literally need this rest. Okay, we can do these as powerful and as intense as possible, and then we might take a little bit of time at the end of our set. Just depends on you, your body, your mind, most of the time as well. Sometimes that rest will help us be more intense and have stronger sets over just kind of going and not stopping and having maybe a lower intensity. I prefer you to be faster, quicker, more powerful with a little bit of rest over you not taking rest and having a slower pace the entire time. So we'll think about that now. We are just over halfway. We have 6 minutes to go. Yeah, you're probably getting through just about your second set. So again, we'll try to push that minimum 3 to get at least a minimum 4, because I know you can. I think you can. I see you guys are all finishing up your second round. So we have plenty of time to get at least 2 more sets in. All right. So back to that first one in our high knee side lunges. 4 of the knees into that side lunge. As we go into the lunge, we oftentimes talk about these side lunges. Very important that we're pushing the hips back. Okay, going through our knees or our high knees, and then driving the hips back. Especially if you feel some pressure, you get a sense in the knees, around your knees, that will help take that pressure off and not feel that. All right, we are halfway there, 5 minutes left. Let's do it. Going through these ones. So the lateral bounds, we do these ones very often, and we talk about the fact that they're really easy to make harder or easier in terms of the leg focus that we're getting. So something that you can think about now is, you have just under 5 minutes left. You have lots of time here. You're going to be going through at least 2 more rounds. So if you want to get more work in your legs, and or if you want to make them feel more challenging, if we sit lower down into that sort of single leg lunging position, and we shoot out of that down back into the other side, that is going to involve more of the actual leg muscles themselves. Whereas if I don't sit that low and I'm sort of up here rather than down here, I am probably going to feel my legs a little bit less, which might make it more possible for me to go faster. But you are in full control of how low you are sitting on your lateral bounds. Okay, so we'll think about that here on our next set. If we want to make it a bit harder, we'll see if we can sink down a little bit lower into that single leg squat or lunge, and vice versa. Because some of us, our legs might be completely gassed, not wanting to work anymore. We might get more out of this for our cardio or conditioning if we don't sit so low. Okay, so 3.5 minutes. Getting in those plank jacks. Potentially the easiest one, the plank jacks, I don't know. It is a plank position, but they're quick. They 10 times. We want to make them efficient. Okay, thinking about jumping our feet in and out as quickly as possible. And again, keeping our core tight so that we're not driving our hips up into the ceiling like this. Okay, we want to be down in that strong plank position. Trying to get through them as quickly as possible. We have 3 minutes left to get at least 1 more set. Let's do it. Okay, so rest if you need. There we go. Let's get it. Okay, pacing ourselves, pushing ourselves, trying to get through this round, do this one, and one more full round. Hustling as we finish up here, but not losing any of that control that we have. We want to make sure we're doing these with as much control as possible. We're not just flailing around right and left. Okay, we're intentionally going through, again, that sort of single leg squat on our bounds. We want the hips low on those plank jacks. 2 minutes left. And we're starting to get tired. I mean, we already were. All right, so we're going to have to think about these things a little bit more as we approach the end here. Keep everything on point. Let's do it. Okay, strong finish. Breathing through this. Okay, again, we'll try to hustle between these exercises so much. Okay, no time. The only time you get is after those plank jacks if you need it. Okay, we'll try to stay with that here now as we get to the end of the 10 minutes. When, you know, our body's pretty much done, our mind knows we're almost done, so we'll try to finish strong here so we can get the most out of this circuit. Just over 60 seconds. Okay, so how much can you do in a minute? Let's find out, starting right now, pushing yourself as hard as you can. Okay, maybe skipping the rest if you are at the end of your set, finishing your plank jacks. Let's try to go right into our next set. See if we can get through at least the high knee lunges. Maybe the bounds, maybe all three. You really have to work for that though. Okay, let's go. Begin how strong we can finish this circuit. 10 minutes. I know it feels like we've been doing this for probably longer than 10 minutes, but you are almost there. We have 30 seconds left. Okay, so all of us are working right to the end. Don't care what you're doing. One of these 3 exercises, of course, but let's try to not be resting right now. Okay, strong finish, 20 seconds left. So feel free to just stay in that exercise. Go into the next one, whatever it is, we're gonna stay working for 15 seconds. You got this, do, come on, push yourself, 10 seconds left to the finish line. Let's go, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and timer. Nice work. Okay, so right now, whoo, we are feeling quite hot and heavy. Our heart rate is going like crazy. That was the goal, which we talked about. So now the goal is to cool you down, calm you down, bring yourself back to a more normal level where you could actually have a conversation with someone without huffing and puffing all over them. So walking helps, breathing necessary. Drinking water helps. Okay, we're trying to take the next minute, maybe 2 or 3 minutes to calm down, cool down. Okay, and we know that standing still is not as efficient as moving, although sometimes it feels good to just like stop and stand still or sit. I want you up and I want you taking steps around the space that you have, whether it's just your mat, your room, your garage, wherever you are. Okay. While you do that, I'm going to talk about 2 stretches that I would like you all to do. You're going to have to do these on your own, so you can either set a timer or just count your breaths and follow along like that. But there are 2, okay? First one is going to be a little combo move of the hamstrings and the calves. What we're going to do is lunge ourselves, so our hands are on the wall. We're in this sort of shallow lunge position here, and then we're going to drive our knee forward to produce that nice stretch down that back calf. We want to make sure our foot's not angled out, but rather it's pointing directly forward towards the heel of this front leg. And then the further we lunge forward while keeping that back heel down, the more stretch we're going to feel in the back of the leg. So again, you don't have to join me on this right away. In fact, you probably need another minute or so to yourself to kind of cool down, and that's okay. But when you're feeling ready, you can come and hold this stretch 30 seconds or about 10 deep breaths, this one. And then we're going to straighten out that front leg, and that plant is slightly in the way. Straightening out the front leg so that the knee is soft. We're not completely locked out, but we're getting that stretch now in the back of that front leg, which you're probably going to feel a lot because of those hamstring walkouts and the deadlifts and all this focus that we did. 30 seconds here. Once you're done that, you can switch sides. And again, we'll do the calf, 30 seconds, and then the hamstring, 30 seconds. And then the last And the final one that we're going to do is for our glutes, because you know we did a lot of stuff to work the back and sides of our hips. So we're going to loosen that up with one of two options. Option number one is this pigeon stretch, technical yoga term, which is having this front leg bent underneath the other opposite hip. And we're getting that nice deep stretch through the side of the hip, back of the hip. Now, for someone with pre-existing knee injuries and or sensitive knees, this doesn't feel so good. So in that case, you're going to turn around onto your back, bend that knee up and over like this, and hold this in here for your stretch. This will go for minutes on each side. And again, it's going to feel good. You know this one feels good, and it's also going to help you loosen up so that you don't feel this as much tomorrow and the next day, although you probably still will. Okay, so 60 seconds, and then we'll switch. And just choosing one of those options. You don't have to do both unless you truly want to. And then that was one set. So you feel free to complete 2 to 3 sets of that, the hamstring calf, the glutes, and then any other stretches, my friends, that you want to throw in right now. You are perfect timing to do that. Your body's nice and warm. You've loosened everything up. Okay, so if there's anything else that you want to do that. Okay, you are done with me. Thank you so much for another session, another leg day in the books, and another week of training done. Okay, I'll see you guys next week on Monday for our leg day. Have a great weekend, and good job today. And my replay watchers, I always like to shout you out to let you know that I love your comments. So if you are here still, drop one below and let me know how you feel after that session on this Friday. And I'll see you guys next week. Okay, bye.